So I'm working in Photoshop CS3, and what I did is I started a new document in 300 dpi, and for the lines I just held down the shift button while I had the brush tool selected in order to draw straight lines. And so I'm just setting up some different thumbnails so that I can try and get an idea of what I'm going to work on, because I'm not really sure what type of environment I want to do. And I actually set the lines to multiply, and I'm painting beneath them so that I can keep the lines intact. And I kind of wanted to go for a cinematic aspect ratio. So right now I'm thinking I kind of want to do some kind of environment dealing with architecture. So I'm just trying to put down some ideas. Still exploring right now. Right now the brush I'm using has a hardness of 100%. So I'm actually not getting any opacity with pressure. It's just all 100%. And what I did there is I flipped the canvas and I just have that bound to a key. It's Command F on mine, and you can just set those up yourself with keyboard shortcuts. So right now I'm using the chalk brush. I'm just trying to land some big shapes. Still searching around for what I want to do. I'm thinking maybe I'll have some kind of a bridge or something. I also wanted to mention that I usually don't start out by doing thumbnails whenever I start a project. I usually just start right in on the painting. I'm not really sure why I do that. I've just always done that, even when I was in school. I guess I kind of felt like my first idea was usually the one I went with anyway, so I found myself just, doing extra thumbnails just because I was forced to. Like, someone teacher would say you have to do 15 thumbnails. So in the first, one or two thumbnails, I pretty much had what I wanted to do, and then, for the next 13 or so, I would have to sit there and just come up with ideas that I knew I wasn't going to do anyway, so it just seemed like a waste of time. I mean, the other problem I have with doing thumbnails is a lot of times I'll do thumbnails, and then almost without fail, if you show an art director a bunch of thumbnails, they're going to pick the one that you like the least. I mean, it pretty much happens every time, so in order to kind of avoid that, I just, do one idea. So speaking of the distort tool, that's actually what I'm doing right now, and what I did first is I selected the entire image, and then I did a copy merge, which is Command-Shift-C for the Mac and Control-Shift-C for PC, and then I just went to Edit, Transform, and then Distort, and you'll get these handlebars, and then you just click and drag the handlebars to distort your image. And I was just pulling it out so that the perspective was a little more of an upshot. It was a little more severe. And the distort tool is just a really great tool to kind of push the perspective in your piece, or just to change the angles of things a little bit. Same with like the warp tool. Like if you want something, maybe like your ellipse isn't wrapping around as much as you would like, you can use the warp tool to kind of use that as like a quick fix. But I mean, all of these tools you need to use in moderation, and you need to be very subtle with them, because otherwise, the image starts to look really weird and it starts breaking down. Now it's time to add a little more atmosphere, so I'm using my dust brush, and I'm just painting in some patches of dust that's blowing around, and I'm using the light color, like maybe, how when you look at something in the sunlight and you can see like little dust particles floating around. I'm trying to do something like that, so wherever there's light coming down, I'm trying to paint in a few of these little specks of dust that are catching light. And a lot of times I'll use this brush too when I'm painting like battle scenes, so I'll have dirt kind of flying around. It just gives it a little more realism and adds to the depth of the painting.